Hey everyone, appreciate you all being here at USA Crypto Group. Today we have Millix here with us today for this AMA session. Millix is an open source project meant to provide utility as simple as high speed, large scale peer-to-peer cryptocurrency with no organization or functional centralization. With that, I'd like to welcome Price from the team. Price, it's a pleasure having you here with us. If you can start out introducing yourself, talk about your team, and give us a bit of insight on your background and experience, please.
Sure. I was an early adopter in Bitcoin, and for the last 10 years, I own a site called fiatleak.com, which is it's a map of the world, and it shows transactions for a lot of cryptocurrencies in real time. And I own Bitcoin Wallet for about 10 years. So that goes back a ways. So I've been around the space for quite a while. And Millix, we started working on Millix in 2018. And that was when I assembled the board of directors for the Millix Foundation with a real varied, diverse set of backgrounds. And development went on for 2 years. You know, as you said, Millix it's not based on any other project. So it took a long time to get to Genesis, and that was in 2020.
Okay, appreciate that. So 2020, so the project's been around, let's say, so 3 years at the Genesis event. So it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
And you said,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Price.
Well, I was going to say that, and I guess I'm kind of going to answer questions along the way a little bit, but even though the Genesis was in January of 2020, we didn't make any noise about the project because the motivation for doing the project was I didn't really have much of an interest in launching a currency for its own sake. I was interested in launching a currency that would power interesting services, interesting use cases, and so from January 2020 till about January 2022, maybe. We were building services on top of Millix, and that's once we had that, that's when we started to get some adoption and to talk to people and build the user base.
Awesome, and we will go in depth on the use cases that you have going on. But before we go into in depth on those, if you can, how did the project come about, Price? What inspired you to pretty much build this structure, from scratch? Because the traditional words you have, the layer 1 blockchain and the layer 2, etc. You decided to build Millix from scratch. Why was that?
Okay, well, the first decision. So what I wanted, functionally speaking, was extremely large scale at very high speed, with very small fees, no centralization, and for the protocol to be tuned for micropayments. And we'll, like you said, we'll get into the use cases. So kind of looking at that set of requirements, it pretty quickly took blockchain out of the decision. And I was real experienced with blockchain by 2018 because I built and run Bitcoin Wallet. I had been doing that for 6 or 8 years already. So I knew about blockchain. And it was a different world in 2018 than it is now. So these decisions were made kind of in the context of the time. So if blockchain was off the table, we looked at the Directed Acyclic Graph, the DAG, and that provided more of what we were looking for in terms of speed, but the scale. The projects that had done DAGs previously, they had choke points of validators, which in some ways are centralized, and that we thought really got in the way not only of scale but also of pure decentralization. And I think that some of the decision to start a protocol from scratch, you can blame being a little bit naive about how hard that is. We didn't think that it was going to be as difficult as it was to solve all the problems we had to solve. But once you get going, you're going to finish. So that's how we chose to do it ourselves instead of just copying someone else's work. It would have been easier if we had done that.
Yeah, as I'm going through the project and reading the white paper, and as you just mentioned, the project, is today and back in 2018 is totally different.
Yeah.
And so for you guys to even come up with this concept and recognizing the importance of decentralization even back then, recently, we know the importance of it recently, of what's unraveled recently, right? So that's pretty, you guys were very innovative, even at the time that, back like 3 years ago. So which is really cool, because you don't see a lot of projects set out to be so ambitious like you guys to build things from scratch. Now, you mentioned the DAC, which is the Directed Acyclic Graph. Now, my question for you is probably looking back, like you said, things change a lot. Do you think that you still made the right decisions, with what you know now and what we have going on today?
That's a good question. I try not to look in the rearview mirror too much, but it's a good question. I think that I'm going to kind of answer yes and no here. I think that Lightning is interesting for speed and scale, and for the transaction fees. But I think that so another feature that was really important for us that we built into the Millix DAG was the ability to store data, any type of data, with every transaction output, and that's maybe starting to happen a little bit on the blockchains, but it'll always be challenging relative to block size to do that, and we're going to make some real good use cases out of the ability to do. We already have NFTs stored directly on the DAG, and we're going to do some interesting stuff with data on the DAG. So I'd still go do it ourselves and do it exactly how we think we need to do it.
Awesome. Now, for those that may not, now I think another project, you mentioned the DAC, right? I think another project that I know of using the same structure, the data structure, is I think IOTA. I think they use that. I think that's one of the bigger projects that use that. Similar to what you guys are doing. I don't think it's 100%, but I think they do use the DAC, IOTA. Now, for those that may not understand what the DAC is, could you differentiate that between the DAC and your regular blockchain, their price?
Yeah, and so when you ask questions like that, I'm going to probably tend to reference Bitcoin because that's the one that I know of the most, and I think a lot of people know that one. So in the case of Bitcoin, it's a proof of work blockchain. There's that distinction, right? It's a proof of work blockchain requires that miners are working on these kind of network size computing problems to win the race to mint the next block, right? And what that means is, well, one, it's hard to be a miner these days. You're competing against NASDAQ companies to try to mine proof of work like Bitcoin. But it also means that it's really inefficient. It means that you're applying, kind of six Bitcoins worth of value, like the miner reward. So call it $150,000. You're applying $150,000 worth of computing security to a transaction that might be for $5, right? So there's an asymmetry between the amount of security and the computing power and what it's securing. Now, there's big transactions that need big security to be safe, but it's an inefficient way to do micropayments, and it's an expensive way to do micropayments. And so, kind of technically speaking, the difference between a proof of work blockchain and a DAG is on a DAG you've got nodes the same way that you've got miners on a blockchain. And when you send a transaction out across the DAG, it's going to go from me to one other node, and that node's going to proxy the transaction and propagate it out. And the transaction that you send only has to be inspected and verified by a contained number of other nodes. You can decide how many that is, but 32 is kind of the default and is a good amount for micropayments. So you're asking the network to do work on a transaction size scale instead of a network size scale. And the other thing about a DAG, this is interesting. When we got away from the choke points, the validators that we were seeing on the other DAG projects, when we got away from that, it became clear that the more nodes there are, the more participants there are on the network, the faster the network gets. The higher the number of transactions per second becomes, which is the total opposite of not only blockchains, proof of work in particular, but also the DAGs that we had seen.
I see. Now, would you say the DAG will be more closer to the POS, proof of stake, then?
Oh, I would tend to think of a DAG as its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would tend to think of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, what you said there, 100% too, is with the POW, proof of work. I mean, it favors the people who have better hardwares, right? And we all know it uses a lot of electricity to mining Bitcoins. So you guys went with the DAG, which is the opposite of what proof of work is. Now, could you speak on how the DAG comes to consensus there, Price?
Yeah. So back to what I just mentioned. When you send a transaction out and it's inspected by some limited number of other nodes, call it 32, but it can be more or less than that. Those nodes are when they analyze the transaction, they're following the inputs back. In some cases, they can follow it all the way back to Genesis if it's a full node that has a full transaction history. And each one of those 32 nodes reports back to the recipient or whoever is asking, is this a valid transaction? They're reporting back and saying, this is or this is not a valid transaction, following all the rules of the protocol and looking for double spends in the input history. And so the consensus is how many of the nodes, the randomly selected nodes that were asked, how many of them said that it's valid and how many said that it's invalid. And so the trust is based on asking a random node, or it's like the metaphor is if you ask one person what time it is and they tell you, there's some level of trust to that. But if you ask 50 people independently, randomly selected what time it is, and they all say the same thing, then that you're building trust through numbers and consensus, and that's how it works.
Awesome, thank you for that explanation there. Now, how does the system decide who gets priority as far as validator?
No validator, no priority.
Oh, no, zero.
No, so zero. Yeah, zero. So when you're running a node, you're connected to other peers that are also running nodes, and those are randomly selected as well. And so you're in communication with the rest of the network through those peers that you have, who are in communication with some other set of peers, right? And so a transaction or a request propagates through the entire network, and there's no need for a priority or a restriction.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. So that's like that's very different than even with power of stake. So now I can see why it just by itself, it stands alone. Because even with power of stake, you still get priority based on the amount of stakes you have. That's how they pick the validator. So with the DAG, there's no priority, zero.
None.
There's
no priority and no hierarchy. So there's of all the nodes that are running the protocol on the network, they all have the same capability. There's no super nodes or voter nodes or hero nodes. They're all exactly the same.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Centralized peer-to-peer.
Wow. Yeah, now centralized is the key word there. That's awesome. That even at that time, you guys made this as a priority, decentralization, which is very important.
Yeah.
Especially being in USA, right?
Yeah, and being open source is also a big aid in being the USA.
Yeah. So we know that with the POW, you have the speed of 15 transactions per second. What is it like on your protocol?
We've tested up to 100,000.
Wow. Okay, that's and what would what are the requirements? Like what kind of computers? What are the hardware that's necessary to run your nodes?
So this is something that's really cool. So first of all, to answer the literal answer to your question is we've run it on Raspberry Pis. Okay, but the more interesting answer to that question, and I mentioned some of the services that we built around this, or it's open source, so anyone can build anything they want. But one of the services that I had built was the Tangled browser. Okay, which you can kind of just mentally think of as kind of like the Brave browser. But the Tangled browser ships with a full node built into it, and that runs on any Windows machine, any Mac machine. And I know that a good number of people in the audience here use the Tangled browser. And when you run the Tangled browser, not only are you running a node, which means that you get transaction fees when you're selected as a proxy to proxy a transaction out to the network, but you also are there's a bar on the top of the browsers. It's a normal browser in every way, but there's a bar on the top that either shows you statistics for the node that you're running within the browser, or it shows you advertisements. And the advertisements are coming from a Millix-powered, peer-to-peer, decentralized advertising network. So anyone running the browser can create their own ad campaign, and those ads immediately show up on every one of the other browsers that are running on the network. And every time the ad appears, the person who is presented with the ad receives a real-time payment from the advertiser. And that's the type of micropayments that I had in mind.
Wow, that's actually very interesting. And actually, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you, because as I was going through your roadmap, and I think if I remember correctly, it was back in 2022, you guys had generated over, was that $200,000 in advertisement? Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think that's. I saw you mention that in the chat. I don't think that that's dollars. I think that was a number of transactions.
Actually, you know what? I did see somebody wrote that, asked that in the chat room actually as well. So it wasn't me that wrote that, but I saw that as well. So it's a number of transactions. Okay, not dollars.
Yeah, and Tangled doesn't get any portion of the advertising spent. It's 100% from the advertiser to the consumer. There's no fee, there's no cut, there's no middleman, and unlike a project like Brave, which is they're basically using the ERC20 blockchain, right? So they're keeping a ledger, a centralized ledger that tallies up how much each person is owed, and then they do a batch payment once a month or whatever their schedule is to settle that period. We don't have that. We're settling every 30 seconds with a payment for the ad that you just saw, and it's in your wallet that you have the key for right now.
Wow. That's very interesting. Now, how many people would you say right now, Price, are using your protocol at the moment?
Yeah, I'm looking at, I saw that question too. I'm on Millix.org to see that. There's a real-time statistic on Millix.org, and it says the nodes installed all time is 16,000, and that's mostly browsers that are running the node. I should have mentioned that in addition to the running the node in the browser, you can also download the reference client from Millix.org, which is what you would use if you were going to access the API layer and build a layer 2 application on top of Millix. You'd use it for that, but most people use the browser.
See. And you mentioned earlier Tango, which is another social place that most of the people are on there. And you say you guys built that the browser, right? You built that browser as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I'm the owner of Tangled. So when I assembled the board of directors for the Millix Foundation, I started to take steps back away from the Millix Foundation so that I wasn't on both sides of this project. And I started to move more towards building services independently on top of Millix, and Tangled is one of those projects.
Awesome. Should we go ahead and continue on all other services that you guys have built?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we spoke on about Tango. What else do you have within your ecosystem?
Well, Tangle Social is really interesting. It's a reinspection and a reinvention of social media. It would feel similar to Twitter or maybe Reddit or maybe Facebook. It kind of has YouTube. It has elements of those platforms that everyone's familiar with, but it's an economy. As much as it's social media, it's an economy. So when you post content to Tangled, all the engagement that you get is represented as a payment from the audience to you. And there's no algorithm that decides what content you're going to see. You can subscribe to things and you can filter for yourself that way. But unlike Twitter, and I was looking at your guys' Twitter, USA Crypto Group on Twitter. You guys have 3,000 followers, and you've got kind of two levels of reach. Like when you do a tweet for like this event here, where there's kind of an incentive, you get more views than you have followers. And that's rare and exceptional. The other tweets that you do don't get nearly as many views because Twitter is filtering out using the algorithm and preventing your audience from seeing all the content that you post. And that doesn't happen on Tangle Social. Everything is available. There's no censorship. So, and people earn. There's some people that earn some pretty serious amounts of money on Tangle Social. So that's an interesting one. I'll I'll hand it back to you if you have any questions about that.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That sounds very interesting there. So people are actually earning rewards on Tango. Now, are you incentivize them to how do people earn? Like earlier you mentioned that they can create advertisement, correct? Is that the main source of earning on Tango there?
Well, before we launched the social media, the application, there had been a good number of users that had been running the browser for 9 months or a year prior to that, and they had been stacking up some pretty good amounts of Millix from the advertisers. So that's an audience that came in pretty well funded, and so it's no big deal for them to click the like button and send 1,000 Millix from them to somebody that posted something that they're liking. And that gets the economy moving. But also, when you're logged into Tangled Social, every 15 minutes that you're online and active, you get a stipend payment from the platform of between $2,000 and $4,000, depending on whether you're using the Tangled browser or not. And so that gives people the money to create a post or form a group or attract an audience. It's really fascinating what happens when you merge an economy with a community, and people come up with these amazing ideas on Tangled Social. Like there's groups like Tangled Resource Connection, and they'll pay 100,000 Millix for anyone that subscribes to their group, and it's like something that would kind of be taboo on the normal platforms is embraced and innovative by the users on Tangled Social, and it's amazing to see that.
So that's pretty cool. So you set up a almost like a protocol where it incentivizes activities in a sense all around to benefit pretty much the ecosystem. That's pretty cool. I have to check it out. I have to really check it out.
Yeah, it's to the benefit of the users.
That is awesome. That's really awesome. Now, how does that tie back? Let's say, how does that tie back to your native token? Does it benefit the native token in any sense?
Well, you're building a balance on Tangled Social. You're depositing Millix in or withdrawing Millix out, and you're withdrawing it out to the protocol to a Millix address. And you're deposited in from a Millix address. So it's just one of the kind of waypoints of Millix that's flowing around the entire economy. In fact, the very first service that we launched, we knew that we were going to do these things I've started to describe to you pretty early in the process. And so the very first service launch was Millix.com, which is it's an with having a node of the browser, and you can also buy and sell Millix you can trade it for Bitcoin, and that was available on day one. And that meant that anyone who installed the browser and started to get payments from the advertisers, they could sell it right now. Right. And so money flows in, money flows out, money flows around, and it's an economy.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Thanks for the in-depth on Tango there. Very interesting. And you are correct regarding Twitter. Yeah. I mean, they do have an algorithm that it only shows when it wants to show people, right? So when we post things, we have to incentivize people. I'm not sure exactly how the algorithm works, but I know that's not fair. And the reason for that is because they want you to pay for advertisement.
Exactly. So that's a great point. Let me get to that. But before I do that, let me accuse these other platforms of something that I think borders on criminal. I did marketing on social media for a few years, say 2012 to 2015. And I learned a lot about how they work. And they are very happy to take your credit card and to charge your credit card to advertise to build an audience. You could spend $100,000 building an audience on one of those platforms, and then when you make a post, they're going to prevent that content from being seen by the people that they just charged you to subscribe to. It's offensive on every level for me. Because there's no advertising, so Tangled on Tangled Social, there are no advertisers on Tangled Social, like you would normally think of advertisers. The users are promoting things. They're promoting themselves, but there's no banner ads or anything like that. And I hope that there never is. I wouldn't mind taking ads from the peer-to-peer decentralized ad network from the Tangled browser. But as soon as you introduce advertisers to a platform, you lose the ability to have free speech, because the advertisers become a morality police to express outrage that something was said. And not only that, but it forces the platforms to curate the content, not direct from publisher to subscriber, but what they think you'll engage in most, and keep you online long enough so that they keep serving you ads that are targeted to you based on the data that you've given to the platform. And that doesn't happen on Tangled Social. So that's what I mean as a reinspection of social media. That's what I mean.
Oh man, you know what? I have to check it out, because I came from the background of marketing as well. I ran a few businesses off Facebook. I spent over at least $300,000 on Facebook marketing. And what you said there, 100%, right? They want you to invite people. They want you to advertise, get people in to like your page, follow your page. But when you post something, they do not want to show to people that like your page. They want you to actually pay additional money just to show the people that enjoy your page. So it is a criminal. It's messed up. It's really messed up, So that's why you go into like Facebook page.
Let me ask you: you had groups that you invested money in, right? And kind of depending on the nature of the content of those groups can get shut down for reasons that aren't clearly explained to you, because some intern back at Facebook decided that what you said is offensive to an advertiser or the mainstream media. They have no problem shutting you. That happened to me. I got shut down. And that was part of the motivation to, there's probably a better way to do this that favors everybody.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I've been wanting to see a take over Facebook algorithm and Twitter algorithm. And I have not heard of Tango, but it seems like you really understand how the algorithm works and how marketing works. And I feel like you built this for the people. I have to check this out, because it's actually very interesting to me.
Yeah, well, my understanding comes from battle scars, which probably you have the same ones that I have.
Yeah. We have a page that's probably accumulated, we have videos that went viral, which is like 15 million, and we accumulated over 30,000 followers. And I remember in the beginning, around 4 or 5 years, that when you post something, you get pretty good viewership. But as the platform grows, you post something, out of 30,000 followers, you maybe get like 100 views. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? And now when you go into Facebook marketing, do you want to target your followers, target your audience, target the people that may like your page? So they have all this breakdown, but everything that you have to pay additional money for the people that you already acquire, even if they follow you. So it doesn't make sense to me at all. So it
makes a whole lot of sense to Facebook.
What was that?
Makes a lot of sense to Facebook and their shareholders.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so Tango.com, guys, check it out. I think Johnny just pinned that there. Very interesting. I got to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, Price.
There's some more services that not mine, but I can give some shout outs to some very cool services that use Millix if you'd like to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Okay, so there is a website called cobrahelix.com, and their motto is paid to play. Okay, so you go to cobrahelix.com and they have arcade video games. You play the video games, and whatever your score is on the game, that's how much Millix you're going to earn and get paid back, right? So they have normal ads like Google AdSense type ads, and they're able to afford to be able to send money back to the audience for playing video games because of the revenue that they get from the ads. That's a very cool site. Another one, unless you have questions about that one, and it's not my site, but I've used it. So another one is called onthenode.com, where it's a news site, and if you submit news articles to that site and they accept it, you get 1 million Millix. And you can get more Millix based on how many views it gets. Very cool.
Now, how were you able to land these partnerships? Now, how long have you guys been working with these sites here, Price?
Well, so those two sites are owned by one of the guys who's been involved since the very beginning. So that's how we found out. I really want people who think about kind of the possibilities of real-time micropayments, where you can send a payment for, a musician can send a payment for streaming a song, or vice versa. The audience can send a payment for streaming a song, where that payment is a tenth of a penny. As people start to understand that you can do that without friction, I really want more developers to start to use the open source project to build a layer 2 applications on. And by the way, there's assistance for anyone who wants to do that.
And they can get that info right on your website there to
Millix.org. Yeah, Millix.org has a program for supporting developers or educators or evangelists, kind of whatever you bring to the table, they're willing to have a conversation with you and see about supporting you.
Awesome. And I'd like to go to, I know that you have a grant. I want to go in some of those programs you have as well. But are there any other use cases that you guys built on your platform?
The ones that we have are pretty big. Decentralized ad platform, that's a pretty big bit of the economy. Social media is pretty big. We are working on a decentralized peer-to-peer search engine. That's another pretty, it's a pretty big industry. These are big industries that we're kind of dipping our toe into. I mentioned the musician site. There is a site that's coming out called Wavell, where it's like Spotify, but payments back and forth between the musician and the audience. There are some other sites that haven't launched yet that I'm aware of what they are. There's one that kind of takes a shot at an economy-based Wikipedia. There is one that takes a shot at like an economy-based TripAdvisor, or like a local, like what recommendation for a local restaurant, kind of local community stuff. So that 2023 is going to be a good year for the amount of services that are being added on.
All right. Now, Price, what type of demographic would you say that this project or your protocol it's more attracted to, and how are these people contributed to the protocol? I guess the main question is, what would you say the demographic that you guys are targeting, if any?
I would say that we don't target. I can tell you that in the back of my mind, when I was thinking about the services that we've talked about, I was thinking about people where $1 or $2 a day is a real significant change in their income, which is the majority of the planet. That was kind of the first thought, and I think that we're doing well there, and particularly with the browser and Tangled Social. But kind of bigger, those are the first people that you want to help. But in my mind, the problem that I was trying to solve over long time span is that artificial intelligence and automation will replace everybody's job, every job. And the only unknown about that is the timeline that it's going to happen. But I think that will happen. So I wanted to provide services that people could earn doing the stuff that they already do for free and that they like doing. And that's happening right now.
That's awesome, and you're right. You're correct on that. We'll be in the United States. The dollar stretches a long way, but if you zoom out, look at the world itself, $1 a day, that makes a huge difference in a lot of people's lives around the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can earn that currently right now, actively right now, on Tango, correct?
You can, and people do. And I'll just tell a little story. There in Indonesia, I believe in Indonesia the average monthly wage is about $105. So it's that's the type. $1 or $2 a day really makes a difference in that economy, and it's amazing what people do when they're exposed to these ideas of combining contribution with cryptocurrency and communities. There are guys in Indonesia, and we see this on Tangled Social. They post videos. They opened an office. They decorated the office with Millix logo, Tangled logo. They're called Gembels Berkari. And we did not ask them to do this, and we do not know who they are. And every single Friday, every single week, they pack 100 hot lunches into Tangled and Millix branded lunch bags, and they hit the street and they hand out food in Indonesia to the people that need it, and they get the money to do that from what they earn on Tangled Social. It's incredible that's the most satisfying thing, is to see things like that happen without any direction or influence from somebody like me. It's just happening.
Wow, that's actually very incredible. And that's amazing that they are grateful for what you had provided and able to do that on themselves, right? By themselves, like you said. That's incredible. That's amazing.
It is.
That's got to make you feel so good.
It's really weird to see stuff like that happen, but really satisfying.
That's pretty awesome. All right, now, Price, I know that you guys recently launched your wrapped Millix, which is the wrap token on an exchange, which is the P2B exchange.
Yeah.
Could you speak on what that is about? What is the functionality of the wrap token?
Yeah, the most direct way to answer that is so that the bridge between Millix and wrap Millix is to ERC20. So the bridge connects the Ethereum network to our own protocol. And the most direct and honest answer to that is when the Millix Foundation was having conversations with exchanges, centralized exchanges, and what we know about Uniswap and the decentralized exchanges, they are not going to take a year to figure out how to develop and integrate a new protocol to list a currency that they have no idea what the trade volume is going to be. So, they said, do you have a wrap version on Ethereum on ERC20? And we said no. And then a month later we said, now we do. And so it's just an extension of our protocol into everything that's possible in the ecosystem that's available from ERC20. So you can store wrap Millix on hardware wallets, and you can trade them on DeFi. You can trade them on P2B. That's the real reason.
Awesome. And it just provide more accessibility, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Anything else you want to speak on that we have not touched on yet, Price?
Oh no, I'm good. If you want to shoot me some questions from the community, I got some more time.
Perfect. Man, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Price. Very innovative. I got to check out the project. I read through the white paper, but I did not, I did not see the Tangled part of it. So I got to check out the website because I think that's so crucial as far as advertisement go. I've been wanting a platform to, I don't know, take over Facebook and most of the social media algorithm. And from speaking to you, I think you may have something great here going on. So I look forward to look further into it.
Good. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So with that said, my man Mike has been keep tracking questions in the room. So he's going to come on and ask a few questions away.
All righty. I appreciate you guys coming in today for that amazing breakdown there, Price. Sorry, I was just dealing with the issue in the background here. I was trying to add two of your members as well. Getting back to the questions here, I apologize. If anybody from the USA Crypto Group here wants to ask their questions on voice, please feel free at any point now to unmute yourself and do so. If not, I'm going to follow through with some of these text questions. Let's start off with the most recent one here. This one's coming from Henry Sky. The allocated 9 quadrillion Millix, which is distributed to the supporters with additional of all payments being given to advisors. I'm wondering, will the project still satisfy the third principle, which says the cost of securing value cannot exceed the value it secures?
Somebody looked pretty deep into the documentation to find that one. The idea behind the cost to secure something relative to the value of what it's securing is in my mind is applied on a transaction basis, not on like the market cap. It's to secure a transaction with the appropriate amount of security, and that goes back to what I mentioned in the differences between a proof of work blockchain and our implementation of the DAG. There might have been more questions in there. It maybe help me out parsing those.
There was a second part of his question here from Henry. It is a little bit different. Talking about nodes. There are so many nodes in the crypto space which have many interesting features. Is there a spectacular feature that the Millix node has which will make many investors have interest in making use of your node over others in the space?
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. When, like I said with the Tangled browser, when you're running the Tangled browser, you are running a node. You're getting paid by advertisers. You can mint NFTs. You can convert Millix to wrap Millix. And as long as you're using a browser and you're online, you're going to keep getting paid from advertisers. And it's as easy to run as a browser. My mom runs the Tangled browser. My mom did not mine Bitcoin. I did, and it's hard, So when you think of Millix nodes, think of it in that way. The total number of potential nodes that could be on the network is not limited to how many Linux experts they are that are interested in the project. It's limited to how many people use a browser on a laptop, right? So it has a little more upside.
Right, perfect answer to that. I appreciate that. That actually answers all of Henry's questions there.
Thanks, Henry.
Thank you, Henry. Moving on to, and I hope I say this right, is Alvidnik. Says, how do you intend on inciting quality community growth to help aid full adoption? Have you thought of any bug bounties, contests, and ambassador programs to help promote healthy competition and growth in the community?
Yeah, there are bug bounties. Those are run by the foundation, Millix.org, that foundation. So as far as the adoption goes, we have spent zero on marketing. And the adoption that we've had is only as good as the value of the services that are offered using Millix as the reserve currency. And so that so far, so kind of the last, call it 14 months, I'd say, that we've kind of been public, that's produced about probably close to 50,000 holders. And I think, this kind of touches on being in the US and what you can say and not say, but I think that type of growth where you're not growing from shouting on Twitter about how much different you are than everybody else, but you're just offering services that people can choose to adopt, which then exposes them to Millix. I think that's a better way to build fundamental value. And that's what we've done.
Great answer there, Price. Appreciate that. And thank you for the question there, Ulf. Next question is rolling in from, let's take Bright Chris. His question is, it is said in your white paper that Millix is built in a way that more users and more transactions increases the transaction speed and capacity. So how far from AMAs and other marketing aspects, what have the team put in place to make sure the users are actually using the nodes?
Again, it's the use cases. It's hard. I think it would be hard to make a crypto project where the project is the reason for the project. It's hard to get users. You have to, where they're just going to send Millix back and forth to see that it works. And you have to have use cases. And so I think we've probably covered that. Is there any part of that question that I missed a little bit?
No, that was right on there. He does have a third question here. His last one, anyways. The project has been under development since 2018. His question is, since then till now, what has, in your words, been the biggest task on creating Millix?
The hardest part, I think, I mentioned that the other DAG-based projects that we looked at have, at the time at least, to our understanding, had centralized validators. And since we didn't want to do that, so we proceeded without that, not knowing all the consequences that would cause. Like, there was a reason that they did that. There's a reason that they have those validators. And the reason is so that a DAG can simulate or achieve the same type of known state of the network that a blockchain is really, really good at, right? And so by centralizing the validators, they were able to kind of simulate a known state of the network like a blockchain would. And it wasn't until we built the first layer 2 implementation of Millix.com for the Explorer and the custodial wallet and the exchange that we started to realize that we also had to establish a known state of the network without centralized validators. And figuring that out and designing the logic for that was a real test.
That is a great answer there, Price. I appreciate that. Next question. Thank you for that question, Bright. Next question is rolling in from Random Guy. Great name, by the way. Is based on the Millix grant program, what is the estimate of the minimum and maximum grant funding that will be given to larger scale projects? Is this grant open only for tech-related businesses or more?
So first of all, I have to say that I'm not on the board of directors for the Millix Foundation. So I'll try to answer the question, but I don't have a vote in what projects get approved or not approved. But the last question you asked, it's not just technical people. And I think I mentioned this. I saw these questions come in before I answered a lot of other questions. So educators, evangelists, you propose what you think you might want to build or the action that you want to go take to tell other people and let them say no or yes, with you being, just whatever it is that you specialize in, just present that. Of course, developers are welcome, and there's a lot of room for development, but it's not limited to that. And I'm sorry I can't tell you kind of the range of value that's been granted so far. Anyone who's curious about that, go to millix.org and there's a contact us, or I think there's also an application form to request that type of support. And once you start the conversation, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer the question for you.
It's great to have support like that, Prince, and I appreciate that, Random, and hopefully that helps you out there. Next question.
Yeah, sorry, Random. I couldn't give you a great answer, but I did my best.
Appreciate it. Next question has come from Taintley. You might know him. His question is, what is your 5-year outlook in terms of adoption, integrations, and use cases? What's next?
Oh, 5 years is a long time.
Let's shorten that up. Let's say just over the next 365 days.
Yeah. So I'm kind of going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, Millix and Tangled. And on the Millix side, technically speaking, right now you can mint NFT images and store them within your browser. You have the private key. You can transfer them to other people. You can allow people to preview them. And I'd like to have a lot more than images. I'd like to store a 1 gig video clip, which I don't know if that's been done. We're working on P2P decentralized search this year, but I think it would be really satisfying on the Millix side just to have a growing team of developers that are contributing to the project, that are building layer 2 applications. Interesting for us and interesting for whoever is able to do that, and then interesting to whoever they can service. We worked out so many of the technical problems before people kind of knew about us, that the foundation's proven to be really strong, and so we don't have a lot of pressing technical issues on the protocol side. On Tangled.com, we are launching a marketplace where you can buy and sell anything using Millix, and that'll be I think a big deal for us this year. And just growing.
Correct. Yeah, growing is a big key. Thanks, Bryce. Next question is from Diego here. To sum up his question ultimately is, will you guys be implementing any sort of, for lack of a better term, DAO options with the community where they might be able to vote or have some sort of holdings to be able to vote or have any sort of say in development regardless?
That I think that the answer to that question kind of requires building smart contracts. I think that's a good way to adopt something like that. And we haven't prioritized that yet. It's such you really have to get that right. That is not something to play around with until you're really ready to do it. And that might be something we look at towards Q4 of this year. But I would say not only would it allow voting, but a lot of things besides voting would be enabled by smart contracts, and that's probably a little ways down the road for us.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Hopefully you'll be following still then, Diego. Q4, look out for any sort of updates on that.
Thanks, Diego.
Thank you, Diego. Latest question is coming in from Smiley here. It's about security. Obviously, this is going to be geared towards any audits. What do you have out there to date for audits, and was there any findings on your audits?
Yeah, we went through a Hackin.io. I think it's Hackin.io. So they are when you get listed on a centralized exchange, you have to present proof of an audit, and Hackin is one of the recommended vendors from a lot of the exchanges, and so we went through that and we passed a 10 out of 10 on that audit. I think that you can go to Hackin.io to see the actual audit on that.
Awesome. 10 out of 10 is amazing. Next question is coming in from me. Price, do you have, and can you speak on, I know sometimes you can't, any partnerships you're currently trying to onboard, or maybe you already have?
The partnerships they'd be modest partnerships. We would like to be discovered and talked about by YouTubers, influence. We just like you guys kind of reacted to Tangled Social. I think that the more people that hear what we're doing, I don't think it would be a hard conversation for them to have or for their audience to hear. I think it'd be an exciting conversation for them to hear. And so we'd just like to, get some more coverage by YouTube influencers, or I shouldn't even say YouTube, just, people who have an audience that they can share. We're not looking for business type partnerships. We're not rushing getting listed on every single exchange under the sun. We're just kind of growing at the speed that the community thinks that we deserve, and we think that those things will come organically.
I love that. It's like just saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. 100%. The slow approach, or not slow approach, that's probably a bad word to say, but the educated approach is way more effective.
Well, Mike, I'm sure that we are setting the record for the slowest approach of all.
Let's see. Next question is coming in from Jason here. This actually just came in right now. I want to know why you registered on P2B Exchange. To be honest, I just heard about it. And I also want to know, what are your plans to make the project stable and most profitable for all investors in the long term?
So can you ask that last part again?
What are your plans to make the project stable and most profitable, as good as you can, for investors in the long-term vision?
I'll start with that one. Because we're in the U.S., we can't say anything about investors. We can't say anything about gains. We can't project valuations. We can't do any of that. So that being said, it's my perspective and belief. The market decides that. It ultimately, in my mind, and part of the market is made up of speculators. Part of the market is made up of swing traders or technical analysis guys, and then part of the market is made up of guys who value based on fundamentals. And I think that, so I tend towards the fundamentals. And I think that thinking of that in terms of stability is, again, going back to this idea that having a crypto, most people that have crypto, really all their experience with that crypto is a balance. They have a balance of that crypto. And maybe it's in an exchange, or maybe it's on a hardware wallet, or maybe it's on a node, but it's not really very rewarding. So I can imagine why it would be a concern to have stability in the size of the community. We couldn't be more opposite from that. And our community is engaging with the services and using Millix every single day. And they might not even know that they're using Millix every single day. That's for a lot of them, they're there for the service, and they're getting the money, the payments, and they're doing whatever they want with that. But it's not just all about the protocol. And most projects, I would say, it's all about the protocol.
100%. I appreciate that very honest answer too. I do, Price. So the next question is coming in from me. NFTs. Do you have any plans down the line this year, next year, maybe to implement NFTs? And if you did, what would those use cases possibly be?
Well, we have NFTs now. We've had NFTs within the Tangled browser for about a year. So you upload an image. it gets the data of the image gets appended to the output of the transaction, and it's stored in your wallet with your key, which you can transfer. But an NFT is it's in my mind an image is not the most interesting use of an NFT, and an NFT just means it's non-fungible token. It's an asset one of one. And in my mind, there are a lot of use cases where a data record is a one of one asset that could be stored just like an image on the protocol. And that would allow you, so it could be for something like voting, but it could also be for something like medical records or private information that you want to have control over. No one else can see it unless you allow them to preview it, and you can transfer it when you want, not when the data broker or the platform decides to do that for you. So that's the type of use cases that I think of when I think of NFTs. But image NFTs are launched and have launched for at least a year now.
Oh, that's great to know. What are you're 100% right on all that too. Price, what are the current prices of those NFTs after you? Is it just a minting cost and that's it?
Yeah, it's just a minting cost. And so the normal, when you send a transaction, any normal Millix transaction, the transaction fee is 1,000 Millix, which is paid to the proxy. And just kind of some quick math, you could do 2,000 of those transactions for $1. So that's kind of what 1,000 Millix is worth. To mint an NFT, it's 10,000. So you could do 200 for $1 for that minting fee. So that's the cost of minting an NFT.
Cheap.
It's not very much.
Yeah, very cheap. All right, Price. Well, I think that's going to be all the questions I'm going to take from the community today. I appreciate all the questions as well. Before I do kick it back to Seattle, I'm going to leave you with this. Could you possibly give me a 5-minute pitch on why the community should choose Millix?
Yeah, I don't need 5 minutes. Choose Millix for the use cases and the services that have already been built, and choose to build your use case on top of Millix because of the success that you can see and the communities that we've already proven exist with the services that already are out there.
Great answer. I appreciate that, Price. Hey, thank you for answering all the questions. It was an amazing breakdown and very well articulated, of course. And
thanks, Mike.
100%. I'm going to kick back to Seattle. Thank you, Price.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone, for the questions. Yeah, 100% Price. Very well. You did a very good job breaking down the technical aspect of the project because you have something very unique here. And I think it's very clear for me and the community as well. So great job articulating yourself.
Thank you very much, Seattle.
All right, Price. Well, if you don't have anything else to say, I appreciate you coming here again at USA Crypto Group. Again, everyone, this is not financial advice. As always, this is just for educational purposes only. But we will pin the Telegram and the Discord on the pin there. So make sure you guys join their community. And if you need to ask more questions, please do so. But I think Johnny has been pinning everything that your colleagues has been posting in the room there. So make sure you guys check it out. All right, Price, again, pleasure having you here again. It was a great chat.
All right. Thanks, man.
Awesome. We'll see you around. So hopefully in the future, you guys have an update. You guys more than welcome to come back here and give us updates.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yes, quickly, Price, I just wanted to say as well, when this is over, I'm going to send you a copy of the AMA on YouTube, but I'm also going to add in that your thread link to our announcement channel. This is a little unique right here. You're going to have access to put any new updates you feel necessary into this thread of yours, which will automatically forward itself to the main group. That way it keeps it neatly in one place for you to reflect on questions, reflect on updates, while the whole community gets the update as well. Just wanted to add that in.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Price. Well, at this point, Mike's going to come on and he's going to do a little prize giveaway, a little spin for the community, for the participants here. You're more welcome to stay, or you can go ahead and leave. It's all up to you.
All right, have fun, guys.
Thanks again, Price.
Thank you, Price. 100%. Amazing AMA.
Yeah,
and your name's on here. Your name's on here as well, so keep a lookout. All right. So as you guys know, we have a $20 giveaway on the wheel here, as well as best question, Twitter going on, and we're going to follow up with a $15 YouTube giveaway. Stay tuned. So without further ado, Seattle, I want to show you right here at the top whose name's that. That's yours, bro.
Again, Mike, I lost hope after 2 years, so I think this is rigged because I have not won anything in 2 years.
Well, I'm going to shuffle you somewhere in the list now, and let's grab our winner right here off the wheel.
All right, let's go.
Let's get it. Oh, I thought that was your name, but it was because it was so small to read. Smart Chain. Congratulations. I think you're new to the group today, actually. So welcome. Congratulations. Won yourself $20. That's it for the wheel, guys. I'm going to follow up very shortly with the YouTube upload. And I'm sorry, who was that? I'm going to follow up here very shortly with the YouTube upload and the and how to earn another $15. I'm going to sift through all the questions between Twitter and Telegram and award an additional $20 there as well. That's it from my side. And thank you all for coming out to our Millix AMA today over here at USA Crypto Group. Seen a lot of new faces. Love to see you all. See a lot of same faces. Thank you for coming back. And that's it from Mike.
Congrats, Smart Chain. That's a very awesome name. I'm surprised that nobody had created a protocol that's called Smart Chain. I love the name. Very catchy.
Thank you.
All right.